In this podcast, chat about the defeat to Hull and the win against Swansea. What's going on with Boro at the moment? We answer your podcast questions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Jonny, Dana, and Tom. The Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast, and a loss in midweek, a win at the weekend to see Boro go 13th in the championship table, 5 points off the playoff places, and I was just really confused from the week. Dana, what was your one key takeout from the defeat against Hull and the win against Swansea?
Well, my takeout from the week is that we won. And very simplistic, but we absolutely needed to. And we did not play well yesterday against Swansea, but I think there's beauty in an ugly win like that because it just stops the rot. I think it stops any potential of mounting pressure on Carrick, and it gets us those 3 points to keep us within arm's reach of that top six. We're 5 points off it now. So I think we just keep hopefully building from here and putting ourselves in a good enough position in the table to hopefully attract some decent additions in January. So the one key takeout is that we won a game. Yay. I'm acting like we haven't won in 3 months, but it kind of feels like that.
I mean, we didn't. I know we only won a few games ago, but I mean, we'll take it. I mean, the bar is very low on that key takeout. Tom, is your bar a little bit higher than that one? What's your key takeout?
I mean, I'm buzzing, but with the win at least. But my key takeout is that January still seems about 3 months away. That is what I'm waiting for at the moment. Obviously, Kieran Scott said on the BBC Tees interview a few weeks ago that they finalised January plans that week, or they were going to, and we know exactly what we need. And I think with our injury list, it is going to be welcome to just have a few new players in there just to add a little bit of quality to the team. I was saying to Dana just before we started, I'm just kind of tuning out a little bit from results at the moment, because I'm just like, just get us to January and see what we can do. Even though we seem to still be losing players, and players still not back from injury yet. I'm just like, just get us there. So I've really got one eye on January at the moment. Hopefully we can get some business in quickly. The win yesterday was good to, as Dan said, pretty much stop the rot. Hopefully gives us a little bit more confidence going into Tuesday, because I said to you guys the other day, I had a really bad feeling about that game. And then hopefully kind of take that momentum into what West Brom and Huddersfield, or West Brom, Rotherham and Huddersfield, ahead of January.
Yeah, and for me, I think my key takeout is just injuries kind of getting any worse. I think with the end going off yesterday as well, got 9 first team players who pretty much would all near enough start, which is actually insane for me. And the win at the weekend makes me feel a little bit better around the obviously, because the game against Hull for me was just, I walked out and I was just like, I never ever get frustrated or emotional about football. And I just went out the stadium, sat down on the bus, and I was like, what is going on? Like, that was awful. And it was just a bit frustrating. But I think, for me, injuries are taking its toll. But it's just, again, like, you got to try and grind out the results as you can. But let's chat about these games. I don't want to go game by game this way. I kind of want to combine a whirlwind of a week, really, because a lot happened, a lot was said, some positive stuff, there's some negative stuff. But Dana, obviously, 1 went out of 2. Really should have been 2 out of 2, really. But how do you think the games went at the weekend? What's your overall assessment?
Well, I think taking them individually, the whole game, I was really, really disappointed with us. It was probably the most disappointed that I'd been in Boro for a long time, because there was no fun element of the game to mask my disappointment. I was disappointed at the result and our performance as well. We started well within the opening 15 minutes. I think we played some decent enough stuff, and we got the goal within the first 6 minutes. Jones could and probably should have made it 2-0, squandered that opportunity. But then I felt like Boro just started to wilt from there. And I don't mean like tire. I meant our performance started to suffer, and Hull got booed off, and I saw that Ant, who we had on for our insight last week, said that they were abysmal in that first half, and they were. But then it kind of felt like Boro said, "Hold my beer," and then they were just as bad in the second half, and they got progressively worse. I mean, we still had chances, we just didn't take them. So that one, I don't think we deserved to win the game. Obviously, we didn't, but I think there is argument to claim that we shouldn't have lost it either. You look at the goals we conceded, very poor. Swansea, we were really poor in that first half, and I think at half time everyone was thinking, how on earth are we 1-0 up? They squandered some big chances. That Bashir Humphreys header should have landed in the back of the net. It didn't. We had a let off Josh Key's header, and then Liam Walsh as well. They had chances, Swansea, and I think they were left to rue those chances. We scored against the run of play. And then I think the second half was a lot more even. I still don't think Boro were great, but I will credit our ability to dig in, and we didn't give them anything after we went 2-1 up. So I really want to credit Boro there, because I think that it's important to give them that praise for that, because our heads could have easily dropped when Jamal Lowe equalised, because Swansea did deserve it. Like, they did deserve to get on the score sheet. And I knew it was coming, because we always seem to concede. And we've only kept 2 clean sheets away from home in a league since Carrick took over, 4 in all competitions if you count the cup in the playoffs. So yeah, that's something that obviously I think we know under Carrick, but at the end of the day, performance doesn't matter. We absolutely desperately needed that win. Or maybe I'm over-egging that a little bit. It was just nice to win. So yeah, performance wasn't great, but result was more important than that.
Yeah, Tom, would you echo that as well? Like, just happy to win. The win was more important than the result. The win was more important than the performance. I was going to say the win was more important than the result. Then I was like, that just made no sense.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more important than the performance at the moment, because it just does give a little bit of confidence to go into the next game with. Obviously, I thought we were pretty poor especially the first half against Swansea, but it does kind of give us something to take into the next game. You can kind of see the reaction, and I can't figure out what word I'm looking for there, but the reaction from the players to that second goal, and there was a overwhelming kind of feeling happiness after the result. So good that they've got that. They can obviously take that into Tuesday and hopefully kind of be confident from that. But yeah, I would have thought if we'd have drawn or lost yesterday, it still might have been a little bit difficult to pick them up ahead of Tuesday.
Yeah, and obviously the game on Tuesday, I think it comes at a nice time for Boro as well to kind of take their attentions away from the league, and then just trying to get into these cup games, and you never know, get into a semi-final of a cup competition, which is always a great thing. I think from the overall assessment of the week as well, for me, it was just that frustration element of the whole game, which is still lingering in my mind. That first half, where Boro take the lead, they were dominant, and I think Hull didn't have a shot, or didn't even really throw a punch. Really, they didn't have much to create. They didn't look like they were going to create anything anyway. Second half, I felt for the first 15, 20 minutes, they weren't going to create anything either. And then somehow they were able to turn the game around. And how did they do that?
Well, they did that because they took advantage of some rather lapse moments defensively. I mean, the first goal, the equaliser from Liam Delap, the fact that Boro allow a header pretty much uncontested at the near post, and then very similar at the far post as well, is really, really poor. And then, I mean, Dan Barlaser just completely loses Delap, unfortunately, and a really, really poor moment from him. And then again, the exact player that you don't want to make a slight error makes a slight error. It's Barlaser again. Dyke still does get skinned, and I think because Barlaser is the boo boy at the moment, the scapegoat, he did shoulder a lot of the fans' blame anyway. But Dyke still got let off a little bit in that moment, because they're Yeah, their fullback, who John Foster on the PA system called him Vinegary, which I thought was quite funny. But isn't it? I'm not even going to even pronounce it myself. But their wing back absolutely just flies past him. In the end, yeah, Barlaser takes a really poor touch, which just doesn't hold the ball under a spell, and it is essentially a nice bit of a pre-assist for the actual assist. And then Tufan, after the cushion ball to him, steers the ball home. It's just two really poor moments that could have been avoided. Like, let's not pretend that Hull were great. Rossini made a switch, he put two up front, but they still weren't good in that game, I don't think. I will say, for any stray Hull fans that are watching, Boro were really crap, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that we were anything either, but I don't think that his changes necessarily, I mean, obviously Tufan came off the bench and scored, so whatever. But in terms of their performance, I don't think it really upped them a level. So it was basically just Boro assisting their own defeat again. And that's basically how they got back into the game. Sorry again for any stray Hull fans listening that think I'm not crediting them, but I didn't think you were great. And I also thought we were worse. So, yeah.
We definitely were worse in that second half. I think those 15, 20 minutes, I thought, okay, well, we got the goal. Can we kind of press on and just see the game out? Because they didn't create anything, and it was so frustrating for Boro. But then at the end of the game, I think there was a collective frustration from supporters, and you could kind of sense that I can't believe we've given this game away. And then Carrick came out in his post-match and said, I thought we played some really, really good football tonight. I thought from the performance, the boys deserve more rewards than we got. He also said, if we play like that more often, we'll be absolutely fine. Tom, thoughts on that? Because that didn't really seem to, translate with the fans.
I think where he said the boys deserve more rewards than we got, we deserved a point, if that.
Yeah.
Both teams were pretty bad, and also apologies to the Hull fans. I hope you're nothing like the Ipswich fans from last week who slated me in the YouTube comments for apparently not saying they were like a prime Barcelona or something, just average. But Hull fans, yeah, you weren't great. We were worse, and could have easily been a draw. But yeah, I think we threw it away, and yeah, I don't agree with what he said. Where he's like, if we play like that, we'll be absolutely fine, because he must have only been talking about the first 15 minutes or so. We should have put the game away. Isaiah Jones should have done better with the chance that he had. He puts that away. It's maybe a completely different game, and maybe he can be a little bit more vindicated in what he said there. But I can't agree with what he said in the post match press conference interview after the game.
There is a mix of opinions on that. Sorry, just to mention this, there are a lot of difference of opinions. It was a really weird game to like kind of absorb post match, because there was some people that thought Boro played really well, and I do not subscribe to that belief. There's some people that saying that we played better than Hull. That's no measure of a good performance, because Hull were poor. So like, I don't know. People in the comments, I'm sure, will sound off and agree or disagree. But personally, for me, I think that was one of the most disappointing performances of the season. I do disagree with what I said after the game on the radio, because I shouldn't have put that game in the same sentence as Sheffield Wednesday, because that was bad, that game at Hillsborough. But I was just feeling really incredibly disappointed with Boro, because I thought we should have, like, we were in a position where we were leading, and we should have made that 2-0. That Jones chance was so frustrating, but big moments in games that you don't take. Sorry, go on, Jonny.
No, I was going to say it's frustrating, because that they can play so much better than what they're currently playing at.
100%.
And I know there's like a load of injuries, and that does play a part. I can't, like, if people say it doesn't, it definitely does. Like, obviously when you've got 9 first teamers who arguably all could play in 11, obviously with Dieng now, Smith first team last season, Lenihan as well, McNair long spells at centre back as well, O'Brien got injured, and Hackney massively important, Force, McGree, Coburn. He's been influential at times this year, but I wouldn't say hang your hat on him and he'll be amazing for it. But a lot of really key players for us who help us take just out at the moment, and you can kind of see it just in terms of confidence levels, and also just the way it's just not as slick as it normally is. And I came away from the game against Hull, and I was just thinking, that's awful. That was actually abysmal. The first 20 minutes I was happy with. Then we started to go into the realm of Scott Parker and started horseshoeing just for horseshoeing's sake. And it was frustrating. And ideally, you want to just take a risk. And then when players do take a risk and it doesn't always pay off, you get a big groan from the supporters, which is just, again, frustrating. But Tom, I'll come back to you because at the weekend, we did get that win. I think it was vital as well with Greenwood and Silvera giving our first win in 4. Because obviously, Dan, I know you said a win and you were very happy with that, but it was our first win in 4 games. And are you happy with how Boro conducted themselves in that second half? Because it could have went really pear-shaped like it did earlier in the week.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to sound like I'm just slating every team that we play at the moment, but Swansea really weren't great either. They deserve the equaliser for sure. But again, it seems to be a trait of this Michael Carrick Middlesbrough team that we don't kind of just let our heads go down and give up at 1-1, or even if we're losing. So, we were back just playing our game and playing and getting on the front foot when it went 1-1, and obviously the goals kind of come as a result of that, and we've managed to see the game out as well. So I think in terms of a second half performance, it's probably about as much as you could ask for. Obviously, we'd prefer to see us playing better like we have done previously, but it got the points, so it'll do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Boro's winning goal is definitely a unique one. You don't really see many indirect free kicks in the box anymore, but we did, and we scored from Sammy Silvera. And then it just was a weird turn of events, right?
Yeah, it was. And I mean, the position was quite innocuous before Carl Rushworth picked it up. Nothing was going to happen there. I'm not surprised if people looked away and their attention was diverted elsewhere momentarily, because I guess you just assume he's going to pick it up or not pick it up. He's going to, I don't know, pass it away and then reset. But yeah, he picks it up. I mean, Sammy Silvera's pass to Elath is a bit under hit. Darling intercepts it and toe pokes it back to Carl Rushworth. I'm not convinced it's a back pass, but then I'm not convinced that it's not. So if you're Carl Rushworth, you just don't take that risk. And he took that risk, and it was just such a bizarre way to win a football match. I mean, the fact that Morgan Rogers gets an assist for that goal as well is just so funny. And it actually does go down as an assist as well. But the actual moment itself was just really, really, really bizarre. And that was the difference between a win and a draw. And I mean, we thank Carl Rushworth for that. But yeah, as you said, you don't see that very often. You just boot that away, surely. Just knock it into touch or something. You don't take that risk. But yeah, we will take it. If that's how we're going to win, then that's how we're going to win. And the best goal that I think we'll see Boro score all season, and the best assist that you'll ever see from Morgan Rogers. So we will take it, but it was very weird.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually missed it as well. So as soon as I seen the ball go back, I just looked down and I went to write a note and just sitting about substitutions and because I thought Silvera was coming into the game quite well. I thought Rogers came in. I thought, this is a really good time for us to make a sub and maybe try and influence the game at some point. And then I look up and I'm just what why are we in this position? I didn't actually have the sound on, but because I don't know why I actually didn't have the sound on at that point. But it was just
oh my god,
I was like, oh, okay, go on.
It was really funny hearing Higgy's reaction to the goal. He just went, wow. It was the most emotionless thing I've ever heard. It was so funny, so withdrawn. But I thought we were going to scar you. I'm not going to lie. I thought if this is going anywhere, it's going into Rose Ed, knowing Boro. I should probably give us more credit, considering that we do seem to be better at scoring goals than I have seen in my time supporting this football club. But I generally thought we weren't scoring that. So I'm glad to see that Sammy Silvera did, in fact, score that.
Yeah, I like I like and want to see more of the pre-season Sammy Silvera because he just looked really exciting. And I think that he's lacking a little bit of confidence, like game time as well. Because there is a player in there, I think. I think it does take time. But Tom, like obviously that win now is obviously massive for Boro. And when you look at underlying numbers, and you look where Middlesbrough are, we're actually technically should be fifth if you look at like expected goals, goal difference, and because we are creating plenty of chances, we are giving away low XG goals. Example, obviously the Matt Rowney video, which is hilarious, where we just conceded more and more worldies. But just now, Boro probably like 4 or 5 points better off than we were last year. Do you think we can still go on a similar run again in the second half of the season if we get the transfers right?
I think it's if we get the transfers right, and if anyone ever comes back from injury. I mean, our injury list just seems like purgatory. Like it's for anyone watching who's going to get this like niche reference. It's like that episode of South Park where all these dead celebrities are in purgatory, just sat on a plane waiting to take off, but nothing ever happens. It's just like are they ever going to come back? Like, I didn't think we were ever going to see Matt Clark back, to be fair, so that's already a surprise. But yeah, it just seems like just nothing's ever happening with them. So I think if we can get a few of them back, because as you've already been through the list, most, if not all of them would start. And then if we can get the January transfers right, which, to be honest, as much as I said a couple of podcasts ago, like I hope people aren't expecting like a massive turnover or anything like that. We're not going to go out and sign kind of like 10 players to replace the injured ones or anything. But I am a little bit optimistic for the January transfer window, and that's just based on the last two that we've had. For me, the last two January transfer windows, other than signing Aaron Connolly, we've absolutely smashed it. It's clear that we're targeting the right type of players because you look at where those players have gone on to. You've got like Balogun, who was like top scorer in the French league last year or second or whatever. Ramsey and Archer from last year. Like we've done well in the last two January transfer windows. So I'm quietly confident that we can kind of recreate that this year as well. So if we can do that, get a few players back from injury, I'm sure that we can go on a bit of a run in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and obviously I don't want to compare too much to last season, Dana, but are we actually doing anything differently to what we were last year? I know we're 5 points better off now, and obviously the Carrick will play a massive part in that because we had a horrendous start under Wilder, but are we actually doing anything different from the previous year? Because the only thing I can think of is we play more into the box now than we did last year.
Yeah, well, I think the one thing that hasn't changed that we all know is that the left winger is not a left winger. They're not going to stay wide. They're going to roam in central areas. So they're basically an off-centre number 10, if you like, whoever plays that role, be it McGree, Rogers, or Greenwood. Got him there. Shock. So that, we know that. We've seen that with time under Carrick. Last season, we did build out in that 3-2-5, where you would see Tommy Smith tuck in to create a back three alongside Fry and Lenihan, and Giles pushing onto a left wing position to create a 5-player attack. Recently, I think we've seen our centre halves split, and then Dan Barlaser will take up a position in like a quarterback role. We have seen that recently. He'll drop and he will take up that deep lying playmaker position that Paul Warne actually referenced Dan Barlaser as a quarterback at Rotherham once in the non-league paper. But to be fair, we did see that last season as well, because Zach Steffen actually played that role. Instead of a midfielder dropping back, Zach Steffen would push up and he would play that quarterback type role as well. Now, the biggest difference really that I've noticed is the way that we use our left back, because Engel does not get as high up the pitch as Giles did. We know that Giles played as a left back, but he actually played the games as a left winger essentially. He was very, very wide on that left-hand side and very high, advanced into the kind of left wing areas, whereas Lucas Engel is a little bit more conservative in his positioning on the pitch, as shown by their heat maps. And also, I've seen Lucas Engel basically, he picks up positions in that half space, the space between the fullback and the centre back as well. He drifts ever so slightly into them, so he comes in centrally a little bit. And I don't think there's as high a dependence on our creative option out wide on that left hand side, whereas Giles was the main creative outlet last season. Out of possession, it's basically the same. I haven't noticed anything particularly different. It's a 4-2-3-1. Sometimes the right back will shift in central, and Jones or whoever's playing that right wing position will push back into a right wing back position. So I've noticed that. I've also noticed that Sam Greenwood doesn't seem to want to track back. There was a few instances where Alex Bangura was unfortunately having to mark two players yesterday. Harry Darling, the overlapping defender, and then the winger for Swansea. So that was something that maybe it's on instruction, because I didn't note that McGree was particularly high on that last season anywhere. I probably noticed it more with Marcus Forss on the other side. So maybe it's just a direct instruction to allow our playmaker to be in good enough positions. To be honest, though, Jonny, I think the biggest difference is just personnel. Like we just don't have the same attacking players last season. I have come to the conclusion that Boro defensively, it's a sacrifice for Boro offensively. Like we've seen enough under Michael Carrick now. We're one game off halfway through this season. We've seen enough last season. I just don't think our defense is going to change. I still don't think we should be conceding some of the goals that we are, but our offense and our offensive options, they masked our defensive vulnerabilities last season. We don't have anywhere near the same quality up front. I've previously spoken about maybe needing a balance between defending and attacking, but I actually think we need a greater imbalance. I think we need to start overperforming offensively as opposed to underperforming in both, because we're underperforming at the back, we're underperforming up front. So I think just a difference of personnel up front is actually changing the whole complexion of the team, because we are still pretty poor defensively in our ability to stop goals being scored, but we're also not really converting chances into goals either.
My dog just keeps catching me off guard. I keep cracking up at it. Just my little hovercraft dog.
Bless him.
But no, I get your point though. I think the personnel side of things massive, isn't it? Like, it's just, it's. I don't. It's not as good as the previous year. I also think there's like a lack of risk as well on the left hand side as well with Engel going forward. They don't want to pass to him too much. But I like to see more of him. I just want to see him just like take the handbrake off and just get forward like we seen last year. And I think with Greenwood as well, I'd like to see him more centrally so we can connect the dots with forwards in the midfield as well. Because I feel like we lacked that this year. Akpom's a huge miss. Maybe put McGree in there. I think McGree could be a shout for us as well. But there's plenty of things to go off. I think the injuries do play a part. And Tom saying Dieng went off injured yesterday. Corburn's confirmed to be injured as well. Boro have 9 players for first teamers out now with injury. So what is going on? What is going on with Boro's injury list at the moment?
I wish I knew. Like I said, they're all in purgatory, but I just don't know. We were talking before the podcast specifically about Lewis O'Brien and saying this was obviously a broken leg injury. It was supposed to last 3 months. He did it back in, what was it, the Watford game he did it in?
Yeah, that was about September, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we should really be expecting him back anytime soon. It's just we haven't heard anything about him, and that seems to be the case for quite a lot of them. Like, we never seem to be any further along with bringing him back. Went on a big rant about that last week, so I won't get into that again. But yeah, I'd love to know what's happening, because it all just seems like, other than obviously Lewis O'Brien impact injury, it all seems to be muscular. And one of the Ipswich fans in our comments actually made a good point, unlike some of the other ones last week, saying saying they're pressing and they never seem to have any issues with fitness, and they're kind of their game is based around pressing and is similar to ours. So there's definitely something there in terms of how both teams are being run and being coached. But obviously ours is being done differently, and obviously maybe maybe it comes down to sports science or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not educated enough in those areas to kind of make a guess there. But there's definitely a correlation there. And we probably should be looking at what's going on behind the scenes or on the training ground and stuff as to identify an area where things are going wrong in terms of muscular injuries.
Yeah, there's so much going on as well, and there can be loads of different things. The way players are training, where they're warming up, cooling down, and the players going home and then just going on the Xbox and PlayStation till like 2 or 3, 4 in the morning, not getting the sleep that they need. There's so much that can go on, and like that in itself can impact injuries so much, can't it? And it's frustrating for Boro because when you do go through these moments, like you can kind of see the impact it has, and the fans obviously they have that and the fans always have that expectation of trying to get results, but sometimes it's just not meant to be. But Dana, there is a player at the moment who is becoming the latest boo boy, in Dan Barlaser, getting a lot of negative comments, especially in the pre-match phoning or messaging bit yesterday on BBC Tees. It was just everything was Dan Barlaser that, so is the criticism justified is kind of what I'm trying to say.
I can understand it to a certain extent because I think when he gave the ball away against Leeds and we conceded from that, the fact that he didn't pick up Liam Delap for the goal against Hull, and obviously we conceded from that, and then the mistake in the second goal as well, which I think is more unfortunate than like a direct consequence of him just being lapse. Even though I did mention the word lapse earlier, they hold more weight to the fans because we've conceded from mistakes like that. So I can understand that, but I do like Barlaser, and I think there was criticism. I think it's gone to a point where like the criticism was aimed his way when he gave the ball away in the build up to the Ipswich second goal, and I looked back at that pass. He tries to thread a ball through. I can't remember where he was positioned on the pitch, but I think it was in their half. He tried to thread a ball through to Crooks, who'd made a run from outside to in to break through their very condensed structure, Ipswich. I don't mind that. If we lose the ball and we concede from that, at least we can say we tried to break through. And actually, it was Rav van den Berg that lost the ball after that because we actually do manage to pick possession back up. Rav van den Berg tries to head the ball back into Barlaser, I believe it is, and then Chaplin picks it up from there. So, like, people are saying that he lost the ball in the build-up to the goal. Well, he didn't. Well, he did, but it wasn't the reason why we conceded that goal. Nor was it actually Rav van den Berg's fault, by the way, just putting that out there. But I like him. I think he's a progressive player. We've had far too many midfielders over the years that are too safe. I like the fact that he always shows for the ball. He's always very, very positive. He's in space all the time, picks up some really good positions to be able to link the player and then to progress up the pitch. I like that. I like that he tries those progressive passes, that he tries to thread us through and behind, that he clocks the runs that are made. I like him, and I'm going to back him to be a net positive for us this season. He just needs to ride out this period. I asked the Rotherham pod, I think that is actually what they're called, the Rotherham pod, about Dan Barlaser and defensively, and they said at times he can be a little bit, like his concentration is a little bit weak. So I think it's a quite unfamiliar role to him to be in that defensive type of position. He does need to sharpen up, but I like him. I think that there's more good than bad in Dan Barlaser, and I'm backing him to improve.
Yeah, Tom, what's your thoughts on Barlaser? I know you had like your positive 1 week, and you have the next on it, like up and you down with Dan Barlaser. So what's your overall opinion on like the criticism he's getting at the minute?
So I can see why he's getting the criticism, kind of based on some of the mistakes he has made in recent games. I thought, was it the whole one where he's tried to pass back to someone in a defensive area and lost the ball? Like, as much as we're a possession team, so if it comes back to what we were talking about last week, it's knowing when to just get rid of it. The Leeds one as well, perfect example. Just being really confident, trying to play that ball out from the back to Matt Crooks in the air and giving it away, which comes back, and then it's a goal. It's knowing when to not keep possession, and I think that does come down to the concentration thing that the Rotherham pod had mentioned to Dana. He does need to improve that, and I think it does come down to what we're going with our recruitment strategy and with our coaching strategy. None of these players are the finished article, and it is coming down to coaching on certain attributes, e.g. lateral laugh needs coaching on composure and decision making. Same kind of thing, Dan Barlaser needs coaching on decision making and concentration. But as Dana's mentioned there, it's a role which is kind of out of the ordinary for him. The one thing I kind of noted this in our group chat on Wednesday night after the whole game, the thing I didn't understand about the signing is that he doesn't really fit the kind of profile that Hackney and I would say Howson as well also have in being mobile and being able to kind of progress the ball. I know he's tried to do that this season. I've seen it a lot more from him. One of the things I meant to mention last week while I was ranting, but he just seems to be kind of very lightweight as well. And in terms of battling for the ball, I remember he just got shoved off it so easily by an Ipswich player. I can't remember who it was. Probably Sam Morsey because he was excellent last week. But it seemed like that. Whereas I don't think Howson or Hackney would give up in that situation. So, and Lewis O'Brien seems more in the kind of mould of a Howson or Hackney. So Barlaser seems to be more of the outlier in the four that we've got in midfield in terms of what he does bring. He's definitely got talent. He just, like I say, he needs a little bit of coaching, needs to be in the team more often to develop what's being coached into him. But yeah, I think he's got areas to work on. I can see why he's got some of the criticism now, but hopefully by the end of the season, once he has had a little bit more time on the team, a little bit more coaching, he'll probably be looking like he's changed for the better.
Can I just read out what the Rotherham pod said very quickly? They said, in the Championship, we got him further up the pitch, so didn't have too much responsibility defensively. But in League One, he sat very deep and did get caught on the ball occasionally, which did cost us a few goals. Sometimes plays like he has all the time in the world, which catches him out. So that's the insight from the RUFC podcast there.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that as well. I think he does want the time, but I think sometimes when he finds that space, he gives himself that time. But I also think with Barlaser, he's only as good as the players around him in terms of if a player's trying to find that space. Probably most of the time he tends to find them. Whether your players are static and they're not coming to show for it, or they're standing still, or they're not wanting to help them up, then your only pass really is either sideways, backwards, and you either try and take a risk and it doesn't always pay off. But I can understand the frustration, but I really like him as well. I think he's a great player and can really have a good pass in him. It's just, I think I can understand the frustration side of things, but when things aren't going 100% well, everything gets very heightened, and this tiniest mistake gets like magnified, and it's just like it doesn't always really matter. To be honest, it's only football, and 9 times out of 10, the mistake anyway has happened 3 movements before that anyway. So it's just like when he does make a mistake, it's probably because of the things that have happened previously in that movement. So yeah, it is what it is. But as we come into January now, obviously it's really important for Boro. So they've got 9 players coming back, of course, but then it's those 1 or 2 players down that year kind of after, or maybe 3 or 4, or maybe 10, who knows. But what would you like to see from Boro coming up in the January window?
Ali Al-Hamadi from AFC Wimbledon, to give you a specific name. Just somebody that is a big bussy centre forward, but could also get in behind and also has clinical finishing as well. I think that will transform our season. People are saying that we need to improve our defence. I think we need to improve our defence in what we already have. I don't think we need to improve our defence necessarily in bringing other players in, although I will say right back is the exception to that, because I think we've been linked with Conor Bradley recently. That got the Gab Sutton stamp of approval, which I think is really big, because as a Championship and EFL connoisseur that Gab is, the encyclopedia of EFL knowledge, it is good to get his seal of approval. He was really good at Bolton last season, apparently, really attack-minded, and scored 7 goals from a wing-back position, so I think he could be a perfect profile. Ali Al-Hamadi there, that said, could potentially be one to just give that little extra quality in terms of an actual player profile from a striker. Now, I understand that he's League Two, but I think it's clear from people that have watched AFC Wimbledon, that have watched League Two this season, that he is performing below his actual level. Now, whether he can step up to the Championship, I don't know. But he's one that there's a lot of hype around him at the moment. And in regards to just watching him and reading about him, there's a really good piece about him that Scouted Football have put out that I'm sure will link somewhere. But a very good striker in getting in behind, stretching a back line, has scored. I don't know how many goals he scored this season, but he's one of those players, I think, in the league that will end up being at the very, very top of the goal scoring charts at the end of the season. And it's a risk, but one of those players that is on an ascent. And I feel like Boro should probably really get into striking the iron whilst it's hot, is my absolute favourite phrase. And I think that might be something for Championship teams to do with Al-Hamadi this January. So, yeah, striker to transform our season for me. And then a right back as well. I think they're the two. And then number 10.
Yeah. I was going to say, for me, number 10 needs a title go. I think Tom mentioned it on the pod last week. I'm just saying there about Ali Al-Hamadi. Yeah, he said there, like, he's performing below his level. Do you meant like he's performing better than the level he's in?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The level that he's at is below his level. Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I thought I'd just confirm it because you never know.
Yeah,
but yeah, Tom, you mentioned on the pod last week that number 10 role is really important for Boro. Do you think that Boro will probably add to that position and try and get something in? Is that what's important to you?
I hope so. And I was just thinking there while Dana was talking about Ali Al-Hamadi from Wimbledon. I don't think our scouting at the moment our recruitment strategy, is kind of based on lower domestic leagues. Because I was just thinking back to the summer, and all of our signings seem to be from abroad somewhere. For me, a number 10 is the most important. And I know we've been linked with is it Brandon Vasquez from Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if that's the type of sign that we're going for from abroad. I was watching him on YouTube the other day, and as someone on BBC Tees rightfully pointed out a couple of weeks ago, everyone looks good playing for AFC YouTube, so not really too much to take
good
from. It was a great quote. Not really too much to take from that. Lee Dong-gook looked absolutely quality on YouTube, and so did Afonso Alves. However, what I was looking for really wasn't in terms of his goals and his passing. It was kind of like his first touch with the ball and his technique, and that seemed to be on point with those clips. I'm sure our scouting team's done a lot more scouting of these players than I have for that. But that would be the type of player I'm looking to bring in at number 10. I said it last week, we're not going to replace Chuba Akpom in terms of the goals that he produced last season. However, you can kind of recreate him in terms of the first touch, being able to hold the ball up, being able to play it off to people in the right positions, and that type of signing is vital for me, because I don't think Crooks is a long-term solution there. What I would love to see Crooks doing is kind of back to what he was doing last season, where he's kind of an impact sub off the bench, coming on up front and causing havoc maybe for like the last 20 minutes and getting a couple of goals. Thinking specifically about the Birmingham result there. Right back as well. I can see us bringing in a right back in a very similar vein to Engel and Bangura on the other side. And I think this right back will be the long-term solution after Tommy Smith has gone, and also an upgrade on Dijksteel. And I think we'll be looking at a right back who can come in and make an impact pretty much straight away. If it is Conor Bradley, great, because something else, I don't know if I said this on the pod or just in our group chat, but with Lenihan and Smith being injured and expected to miss the whole season, there is an opportunity there to deregister both those players in January, as long as we're absolutely confident that we're not going to get them back at any point this season and use them for loan slots. I know Kieran Scott said on his interview that we were really looking to develop permanent players this season. But with it being the January transfer window, I feel like it's not really a selling window in most cases. And this would be the perfect opportunity to bring in a couple of loans because realistically, they're only going to be here till the end of the season. And then Lenhan Smith will be back for next year. So there's that as well. So for me, it's a 10 and a right back. And then I feel like we'll bring in some business that we don't expect to see. And I think that might end up being in the kind of left-hand side number 10 position and maybe another striker as well.
Yeah, and be crazy if you bring in like another like goalkeeper or something. It's just like that's something we didn't expect to see, a goalkeeper. But I see your point though. I think we'll have to as in different positions, Tom, and when we're looking at the game against Port Vale, we've got 10 players out because Greenwood's cup tied as well, and you're looking and you're trying to peel back some like positions and going, what is the quality good enough there? So if we can add to it and bring players in that are actually better the side, then it's absolutely spot on, isn't it? But let's move on. Let's move on now. Let's move on to podcast questions. Yes, podcast questions. Now, every week you get the chance to ask us a podcast question by Twitter, Boro_breakdown, email the BoroBreakdown@hotmail.com, or by joining our Telegram chat with over 370 Boro fans chatting everything but Boro. And before we do questions this week, I just want to quickly give a push to the John SINOTT Foundation. Might be quite a memorable foundation because Matt Crooks does it. And he's trying to raise money over Christmas by doing a 25 Christmas giveaway. If you search that hashtag, you'll find it. It's £2.50 to enter that raffle, and there's some wonderful prizes to be won as well. And the link for that is in our bio too. And if you don't want to look in our bio, look on Twitter, and you'll find it on Matt Crooks's Twitter and Facebook page, and the John SINOTT Foundation Facebook and Twitter page as well. But the first question this week, Dana, it's from Jake, and he says, was this finally the game where Carrick timed substitutions right?
I would say so, yeah. I think one of the criticisms that has been levelled at Carrick, and from myself included, is that he's maybe a little bit passive and that he trusts his players on the pitch an awful lot to the point where he doesn't look to the bench. So I'd probably say that he did get them just about spot on. I was thinking a little bit earlier, is he going to throw the dice and hopefully bring someone on that will hopefully make an impact? And I mean, he did in the end, and they made a good enough impact for Boro to go on and win the game. Although, I mean, it does have to be mentioned again that Carl Rushworth was basically the one that got us those 3 points. As good as it was that Silvera scored, the whole situation arose because of a really poor error from the goalkeeper. But yeah, I think thumbs up to Carrick for that. A little bit different to what we're used to with him, because I do think sometimes he is a little bit passive, but praise to him there for that. I think he got the timings of the substitution pretty much spot on.
Yeah, and then the second question is from Andrew, and he asks, who would be more important replacement, someone for Crooks or someone for Latte Laugh? Tom, what's your thought? Well, you are subscribed to that narrative of the number 10, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think it's too early to be talking about replacing Latte Laugh anyway. However, what's to say if we don't bring in kind of like a specialist player who can play that number 10 role? And like I say, replace Akpom in the holding it up, playing the ball out, good first touch, etc. What's to say if we don't bring in that type of player, it's going to allow the players on either side to progress into more attacking situations and actually create better chances for Latte Laugh. Ones where he doesn't really have to think about what he's doing, he can just finish it. I feel like with Latte Laugh, he makes a lot of good decisions in the fact that he's making the runs in behind, and he does go unspotted sometimes by the players around him who just aren't quick enough to react. Like I said earlier, I would like to see Crooks kind of back in that kind of impact role, coming on up front and creating havoc type role. I don't think he's a long-term option at number 10. I know there was a discussion, I think it might have been on Twitter, would you play Coburn and Latte Laugh together? No, for the same kind of reason. Coburn's not the long-term solution at number 10. I think you get someone in who, like I say, has those attributes, has the intelligence to kind of do it at number 10. Let other people get into more attacking areas and create those chances, and then we might actually see the best out of Latte Laugh anyway.
Yeah, and I think for me, like Elaf he seems isolated at times. There was a moment in the game against Swansea yesterday where Greenwood had the ball and Crooks was on the other side of the other pitch of the pitch, and like Elaf's in the middle, and on the other pitch, there's two pitches that far away from, to be honest. And I was thinking it just needed someone to connect the dots a little bit to get Latte Elaf in, and we just lost the ball, and it was just a big frustration. So for me, I think it's an element. I think you do need to improve both sides of things. But I do like Emmanuel Latte. I just think that, like I've always said of him, if you give him more than one decision to make, he'll probably make the wrong one. But for me, I like him. I genuinely do like him. I think sometimes we're a little bit harsh on him to some extent because we've been conditioned to Archer levels and Akpom levels, and yeah, I think it's a bit harsh to be honest sometimes. But he's still all right. I quite like him, but just needs something more around him. But Danny, you look like you're about to come in and just completely disagree with everything I
Yeah,
said.
I'm going to disagree with these both. I think that they're both important positions to strengthen, but Boro are good at creating chances. That's the one thing that I know that Boro will do. They'll create good chances for their strikers. We're actually ranked third in the league for big chances created, 46. That's one less than Leicester and two less than Leeds. To put it into context, Leicester are first and Leeds are third. So we must be doing something right. However, we're ranked second for big chances missed. Now, I guess because of the fact that we create as many big chances as we do, we're probably going to spurn a few, aren't we, really? But our expected goals, depending on what data provider you look at, it's not alarming, 34 from an XG of 36 per football. But because we are underperforming at the back, and I can't see that changing, like I mentioned earlier in the show, I think we need to be overperforming in front of goal like we did last season. So I think a striker could really transform our season. So I think not necessarily a replacement for Latte, but just a striker in January. I think that's really important. I do agree with you that both of them are important.
Okay, then. Well, let's move on then. Let's move on to the praise and place. Yes, the praise and place. The only place I like to give praise to a Boro player, a coach and staff member, Dana's Christmas jumper, and Tom's Christmas jumper as well, and so much more. But yeah, praise and place. We haven't been here for a couple of weeks because of the terrible week or run of form we've had. We didn't really fancy praise anyone last week, but Dana, who is in your praise and place this week?
I think I'm going to go for the whole team just for their application after we went 2-1 up. We limited Swansea to pretty much nothing, which might have been in part because Swansea's heads dropped, but I liked the fact that we really dug in, and sometimes you need those types of wins, and I think their effort to get that game over the line, their game management, I think was really worth praise. I think Latte I want to praise as well, because I think his endeavour and his work rate and his commitment to the cause is really endearing. Actually, he never ever stops running. He's never deterred. He always wants the play to resume. Like, it's funny when Carl Rushworth picked that ball up before he did, Latte was the one running at him to try and speed that up, and I appreciate that from Latte. I also want to mention the Boro fans as well for the journey up to South Wales. Yeah. I'm not going to put a direction on it. Whatever, geography. I did do that at school, but obviously it's gone out of my head. I want to praise them because we didn't praise them in the post Devon podcast, as we'll put it, because there was just too much to talk about. So I think it's overdue that we praise the Boro fans for their travelling in numbers to really awful away days that are really far away.
And Sam Greenwood as well, scoring and waving and celebrating with the Boro fans. Fantastic. Tom, who's in your praise and place this week?
I only have one this week, and it's Rav van den Berg. I remember saying, maybe in our group chat, maybe in my mate's group chat on Wednesday night, I just love watching him play centre-back. And I think, I'll put my neck on the line here, he's got more potential than a lot of centre-backs that we've had come through the academy had at that age. And I mean, I'm not going to be far off saying he's a future Netherlands captain. We'll talk like that. But honestly, like, I really do enjoy watching some centre-backs play. Like, I think quite boring on that front, where a lot of people will always, remember the strikers and wingers that they've seen in the past. one of my favourite ever players for Boro was Woodgate in his first spell, just because of how he played centre back and how good he was. And I'm getting the same kind of level of enjoyment out of watching Rav van den Berg at centre back at the moment. I hope he gets more opportunities to play in his favoured position. And I'm really interested to see how he develops, because I'm not going to go as far as saying what other people are saying on Twitter, where they're like, "Oh, he's be worth 40 million in a couple of years' time" or anything like that. He just looks very good, and I'm loving watching him play at the moment.
Yeah, likewise. He's in my present place as well, Rav van den Berg. I just genuinely love the guy. I think he's brilliant. Should we just sign his brother as well? Let's have the Van den Bergs at centre half. That'd just be quite funny, wouldn't it? If we could do that. So yeah, I see he's brilliant for a 19-year-old. Really, really solid, and I think he's a lot better than what Dale Fry was at that age. Same with Ben Gibson, and just looks like a really, really solid talent. And we knew that when we were signing him as well. It took him a couple of weeks to really bed in, but the more I see him, the better he gets. Well, let's move on. Let's talk trivia. Dan, I'm going to pass the mic to you because it's your week to host the trivia question.
Yes, I hope everyone at home is ready in the car or on your dog walk. Get prepped for this question. Jonny and Tom get prepped as well. So obviously Boro play Port Vale midweek, and a certain Uche Ikpeazu plays up front for them. Now, my question this week is, how many goals did Uche Ikpeazu score for Middlesbrough? Right, are we ready? Because I'm going to start the timer, and I am going to start it now. And your time is up. How are we feeling, everyone? You confident?
No.
I just had a number come to my head, and I just went, "That's going to be it, I guess." So that's how I feel about it.
Right. Let's see your answers then. Tom, you want to go first?
I think I've gone too high. I've gone for 6.
Jonny?
I went with 4. I also put the word 4 there because,
Why
my
not?
right hand. Yeah, well, I'm not very good at writing with my right hand, to be honest. So it's just, and when I've got for this one, it's just
true.
not the best, but I'll give it a go.
Rav van den Jonny.
My throw-ins.
That was horrendous, Tom. But anyway, we'll let that slide. It's the end of the pod. Well, you were both wrong. The answer is Uche Ikpeazu scored 3 goals for Middlesbrough. And bonus question for those at home, who did those 3 goals come against? Please let us know in the comments, because that would be pretty cool. But yeah, 3 goals for us. And I bet he's going to score against us at midweek.
He loves a goal against us.
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, I was trying to think there. I definitely remember the one against Mansfield.
Bristol City as well.
Bristol City, and I'm just going to say Cardiff, just because it's probably not true. But it's...
I was going to say there's one at home. It was probably, that was Bristol City, wasn't it?
Yeah. It'd be something anyway. But yeah, let's do predictions, because we have an opposition show coming out this evening as well. So just double the amount of content for you guys as we go into Tuesday's game. The last time Boro did play Port Vale, of course, was in 1998, and Paul Merson scored the winner, where Boro won 1-0. So some football knowledge for you there. But predictions, guys, how are we feeling about the game on Tuesday? Tom, what's your prediction?
I'm just nervous about it. Like, it seems, because after all these years of following Boro, it just seems like the most Boro game to kind of like throw away. I'm getting visions of Newport County in my head, and Cardiff in 2008 and stuff. So, but I am actually going to be positive with my prediction. I just don't think it's a game anyone's going to enjoy watching, because it's going to be that tense. I'm going to go 1-1 and Boro win on penalties.
Ooh, okay. Don't know what you're going to go for.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 Middlesbrough win. I will say that they will be up for it, because they're coming off the back of a 3-2 victory against Wigan in which one of their players scored a hat-trick. Chislett scored a hat-trick. So they're going to be bang up for it. It's the best tie for us, but it's also the best tie for them, and I think we have to make note of that. But I'm going to go with 2-0 Middlesbrough. I'm going, so hopefully we're not on the end of a Newport or a Cardiff, because I don't want to be a part of that history, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I have been there and it's not fun at all. My predictions for me, I think we might just scrape through. I think there's obviously when you look at the how far we are away from each other in terms of leagues, and form wise we're very similar. But amount of injuries that we have, it's just all set up for a Port Vale win, and they beat Luton in the last round as well. So, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 Boro win, and we'll scrape through and we'll have cup fever again at the Riversides once again. But guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. To the listeners and viewers, don't forget there's an opposition show coming out this evening or on the Monday. But if you're looking at our list of podcasts and YouTube videos, you'll see 2 videos this weekend. So double the work for us. But for right now, it's cup fever for Middlesbrough. A lot of injuries though, and Christmas coming very soon. But this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like a Boro Matchday chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.